I'm Amy from Doodle Dog Designs. Welcome to my channel.
Today I'm going to show you how to make this punched snow cone. You will find the pattern for this in my free pattern library. It's a free download. I will put the link in the description below. You can gather the supplies yourself, or
I do have a limited number of kits available for this project. It includes the cone with the holes pre-drilled. It has the weaver's cloth and the floss to punch the project. You will need to add your own punch needle and hoop. And it includes a pattern with a color photo, some limited instructions, and it does have the punch needle pattern that you can trace onto the weaver's cloth. It includes the cotton batting that's been aged, and it's got the twisted wire for the handle of the cone, and then it's got this wire for the Christmas tree, and then the berry for the top of the tree, and it has the green wool for the tree, orange wool for the nose, and cream wool for the backing of the project, and then it has the red and white baker's twine to tie around the handle. You will need to add the basic punching supplies, sewing supplies, craft glue, stuffing, and red craft paint. I have got the snowman punched. I used DMC floss. I used Ecru for the snowman, 3781 for the brown, 817 for the hat, and then black for the eyes and mouth and buttons.
I punched the brown at a deeper punching depth.
And I left the area where the nose goes unpunched. I left that circle unpunched. And I'm going to cut around it with pinking shears about 1/4 of an inch away from the punched edge. And then I'm going to clip these inside corners so that I can turn that easier. And then I'm going to press the empty weaver's cloth to the back with my iron. I have pressed the empty weaver's cloth to the back, and now I'm going to make the nose. So I cut the nose pattern out of the orange wool, and I'm just going to fold it over in half lengthwise, and then I'm going to use some orange thread to sew it together. I'm going to whip stitch it. I'm going to start up here at this end so that when I get down here I can use the thread to sew it onto the snowman without having to tie off and start over. So I want to put the knot on the inside. Then I'm going to open up this hole here that I left where I didn't punch, and see, I want the seam to be on the bottom of the snowman, so I'm going to take this where the string comes out here, and I'm going to put it through the bottom of the hole. I'm just going to poke that nose in there, and then I'm going to sew back and forth. So I will bring it up and catch the wool, and then I'll just take it right back down. Just going to follow the circle on the back here, so I make sure that I end up with a rounded nose when I finish. And I'm just going to tie that off in the back. I'm going to trace the outline of the punching pattern onto a piece of tissue paper, and this will be my pattern for the backing. I'm going to cut this out of felted wool. Just pin it onto the wool. Then I'm just going to sew this together like I would an ornament or a bowl filler. And if you need more specific instructions for that, I will link to a video in the description below with detailed instructions on how to do this technique. If you prefer, you could also sew this up using a sewing machine, but you don't want to cut the weaver's cloth quite so closely when you do that, and you don't cut the backing out like that. So I will put a link in the description below for that also, to want to watch that before you get started, because it's a completely different process. I'm going to sew all the way around. I'm using a thread that matches the wool because, as you can see, it does show a little bit here. When I get about to right here, I started here, I'm going to stuff the snowman, and then I will finish sewing it up. This is a 4-inch tall paper mache cone. To figure out where to drill the holes on the cone, you're going to take the cone and center it on a cutting board that has 1-inch squares. Now, if you purchase a kit from me, the holes will already be drilled for you, so you can skip this step. So you want to find the seam of the cone. That's going to be the back of the cone, and so you want that lined up right in the middle of your 4 squares. So it's easy to find the middle on the side here because that's where this line comes through. And so I'm going to just make a tiny mark here on each side. And then I'm going to come over about a 1/4 of an inch towards the front, so away from the seam, and about 3/8 of an inch up, and I'm going to make a mark. And it doesn't have to be exact. And this is where I'm going to drill the hole. And you want to make sure that you drill the hole large enough so that your twisted wire will poke through it. After you have the holes drilled, you can paint the cone. I'm using Apple Barrel Bright Red paint. This is a pretty bright red color, so I'm probably just going to paint 1 coat. If you get it brighter than you want, you can always add an antiquing wax after the paint dries to tone it down a little bit. Or you could paint on a watered down brown craft paint if you don't have an antiquing wax. You want to let this thoroughly dry before you move on to the next step. I cut 11 inches of this pre-twisted wire. It's a rusty twisted wire, and I'm going to poke one end into one of the holes on my cone, and then I will fold up just a little bit to hold the handle in place, and then I'm going to bend it around and put the other end, the other hole, and again fold it up to keep the handle in place. I have 14 inches of the red and white baker's twine, and I'm going to tie a knot into both ends to keep it from unraveling. And then I'm going to tie it around one of the sides here. I'm just going to tie it in a bow. For the icicles on the snow cone, I'm going to take some coffee dyed cotton batting, and you could either cut this out and use this as a pattern, or just take a strip and just randomly cut the icicles out yourself. That's what I'm going to do here. Just want it to look like snow that has fallen down. And then I'm going to start on the back of the cone so that my seam will be in the back, and I'm just going to glue icicles in place all the way around the cone. To make the tree, you're going to need 6 inches of brown cloth wrapped floral stem wire and a artificial hollyberry stamen. You'll find these in the craft supply stores around Christmas, and we're just going to use half of it, so I'm going to cut it in half with the wire cutters. A piece of green felted wool. This is 6 inches by 1.5 inches. I'm going to take the scissors and I'm going to cut little strips about 1/4 of an inch apart, and I'm going to cut up to about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch from the edge, and I'm going to go all the way across, and these will form the branches for the tree. The narrower you make the branches, the fuller the tree will be, but you don't need to worry about getting them all exactly the same and perfect. You're going to want the berry to be at the top of the tree, so place the end of the berry just past the end of the floral stem and then wrap the berry's wire around the floral stem wire. It's going to be the base of the tree. I'm going to take some glue and put it on the top part of the stem here where the berry comes out. And then I'm going to place the fringed piece of wool over the top of the berry and fold it over. Hold that for a minute to get the glue to set, and then you're just going to start wrapping the wool around the wire stem. You can add the glue to the wire or directly to the wool. Just wrap it around and around the stem. As I go along, I'm getting further down the stem. Probably have to hold it at the end here just a little bit, or use a clamp to hold it until the glue sets. To assemble the ornament, you can stick the punch needle snowman into the cone and then put the tree back behind him. And I like to have it kind of coming off to the side opposite the side that you have the bow on, but a little bit behind him. I hope you found that helpful. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.